Are you curious about what challenges buyers in the Southwest Florida market are facing recently? We are here to answer those questions for you. I'm Susan Milner. This is Sarah Rothenberg. And we just wanted to have a little conversation about what we're seeing and how we're resolving and handling those questions. So, Sarah.
First on the list, we get all kinds of questions about insurance. We know insurance after Ian has definitely, been a struggle. It's just very different. Flood zones specifically. I encountered an issue just this week where FEMA has come in. They have changed the maps around. Some homes that used to not be in a flood zone now are in a flood zone. Specifically, a house can be in an X flood zone, the house itself. However, all of the surrounding areas can now be in an 8E. So in that situation, just because that house is elevated and in that X, and all the other surrounding areas are not, that is going to, make you have to buy flood insurance if you are getting a loan. That's only if you're getting a loan. If you are a cash buyer, that changes the whole scenario. You can pick and choose. Do I want flood insurance? Do I want the risk? Do I not want the risk? The house may have flooded. It may have not flooded. That is a personal preference. But if you are getting a loan, you are then required to get flood insurance to close that.
Yeah, the maps are really interesting. I try to tell people because they're like, oh, I don't want to be in an area where it floods. So I'm like, well, let me just zoom in on this map for you. And it's like squiggly lines. She said, I could be in a flood zone and she's right next door and she's not. And you see these squiggly lines. But what happens is when the flood insurance, are looking at it, they're seeing, okay, part of your property is, or this whole area is. So you really have to see if you can get an exemption. I had one where the house was built up so tall, had never flooded at all, nothing. And almost 90% of the house wasn't in the flood zone, but just a little slither of the actual lot was, and they required it.
They do, but expanding a little bit more on that, in this particular situation, your driveway maybe is in the flood zone, but the house isn't. The pool might be in the flood zone, but the house isn't. You can handle this yourself. There is a way to go through FEMA, ask for an exemption. There are companies, if you're not that hands-on person and don't want to be bothered with that, don't have the time, you can call this third-party company. They can come in and they can let you know, hey, yep, this one should be easy to pull out of that flood zone, or no, it's not going to be easy. Give you a cost associated with that and handle it typically in much less time than it would take you to do it yourself.
Absolutely. They know exactly what they're looking at and they've done it before. So even though it's possible to do it yourself for less money, it's do you know all the ins and outs and do you have the time to wait for that?
Right.
Another thing I just want to mention too is when you are shopping insurance, it's really important to think about where you are and what risks are associated with this area. Obviously, hurricanes, so our wind insurance, I would suggest, are very important. Flood's important. If you look at a map and you see Cape Coral and you see all the water, all the canals, almost anywhere you kind of would be better off to have it. And the really cool thing is if you're not in the highest flood zone or you're out of a flood zone, your flood insurance policy would be really inexpensive.
Yeah.
So you go ahead and get it. And then one insurance, broker that we use a lot had mentioned, she did that on her personal home. She wasn't in a flood zone. And then they remapped and she was.
Right.
But luckily, her policy was so inexpensive, she went to get a new one. It could have been 2, 3, 4 times the amount.
And even expanding on that a little bit, if this particular house has had a flood policy for 20 years, never been flooded, and they're paying, $800 a year. Most of the time, you can assume that flood policy at that current amount. Most of the time, not all the time, of course, but most of the time. So that is super helpful. That's always something to think about. And even beyond that, if, we're all conditioned no matter where you live. We're from the Midwest. Hurricanes was a thing, or not hurricanes, tornadoes,
Right.
But until it, physically affects you, it's kind of oh, geez, there's a tornado down the road, or, oh, geez, there's a hurricane, or, oh, geez. But until it actually affects you, that's when it becomes personal. So definitely, look at that, make that choice, really research if that's something, flood insurance, no flood insurance, hurricane insurance, wind insurance, all of those things. It's super specific to your needs.
Right. And that's, like I said earlier, if you're, a cash buyer, you can decide if you want all of it, none of it, or any combination in between. So I recently had some customers that, were paying cash, and they had looked at the home, and they're like, they knew what happened to the home when Ian, and now it has a new roof, and the pool cage was fine, and all these things. So they declined their wind insurance, which I was like, okay, that's a risk. But also when you look at it over the years, we may not have something major like that where they need it, or they might not even meet the deductible, because the deductibles are kind of high too. So in their mind, it was worth the risk. But again, if you're getting a loan, that lender is going to say, nope, you have to have all of these things.
Absolutely. And so, we were in a position after Ian to where, a lot of those insurance companies left. Now, a couple years later, we have a lot more choices. The rates are much more competitive than they were. So, don't let this freak you out at all. Like, come down here, take a look at the house. You love the house. You call, our insurance people, we get you quotes. And if it's something, that makes sense to you, let's do it. Just don't just assume because you're in a flood zone that absolutely means that you are going to get flooded, because that is not the case. It's always a risk. Anywhere in the country where you live, there's a risk of some type of disaster.
Well, and I mean, the last few years, especially, turn on the news at any given time, and there's some kind of natural disaster going on somewhere, I feel like.
Yeah. And I mean, California going through what they're dealing with right now. I mean, what does that look like nationwide for insurance? No one knows yet. So it's just one of those wait and see games. But I mean, in addition to, talking about flood zones and things like that, I mean, there are other insurance inspections, when you're getting a loan or when you're not getting a loan that you may want, that you really need to think about. I mean, you've got your wind mitigation inspections in addition to your regular home inspection and your 4-point inspections. Right. And certainly, I mean, we've, been rounds and rounds with some of these homes that we sell that, the water heater's 10 years old. Well, guess what? Insurance doesn't love that. So, whether you're a seller or you're a buyer, I mean, these are things that you need to think of pre-listing. Let's talk about, maybe we do a home inspection. Maybe we get that 4-point in wind mit because, they're only good for, a certain amount of time. And so these are all things that help, as a seller, your buyers, decide very quickly whether they can get insurance, it's affordable, it's something that they want to take on or not. But these are all super, super important things that you need to think about.
Yeah, I would say that also because this area is, for many, many years, I mean, pretty much the whole time I've been licensed, we've been more of like an as-is kind of scenario because we have a lot of investors here, a lot of cash and stuff. And you can sell a house in any condition. You can sell a house burned out, full of mold, like anything. There's nothing in some areas. People come here and they're like, well, it has to meet these things in order to sell, right? And I'm like, no, it doesn't. No. But having someone like, one of us that's experienced and been through these things, we can look at a house and tell you, okay, there's a flat roof. That's going to be a problem. Or, hey, look, the HVAC is this old. That's going to be a problem. The roof's this old. That's going to be a potential problem. And you can either avoid that property, as a buyer, or we can come in and put in the offer, hey, look, we want this, but we want a credit, or we want this fixed, or, whatever that looks like. So it doesn't mean that that house has to be off the table. The other thing that I wanted to mention with insurance too is because up north, you have kind of nationwide insurance carriers and these names that you're used to. Sure. And a lot of them haven't been in Florida for years and years and years. So people come here and they're like, oh, I called my insurance company and they said they don't even write in Florida. And then that immediately scares you to think there's no insurance in Florida. And I know that some of the news has even kind of made it seem like, oh, they can't no one can get insurance. Those are very rare scenarios where you cannot get insurance. And there are a lot of options. Like Sarah said, last couple of years, we've had so many new companies open and, have these policies, and they're pretty affordable. I mean, I saved switching to a newer one myself.
Same.
And
I mean, that's just something living in Florida that we do. I mean, just because you're with XYZ company this year doesn't mean that you're not going to shop for a new insurance company next year. The rates, might be better, the coverage better. It depends on the year itself. I mean, things change so quickly and so fast around here with that. So definitely something to always shop around for. But, going back to, the 4-point and, as a seller with the inventory levels that we have today, I mean, you really have to think of all of these things that put your house ahead of, maybe the other houses, that these buyers are looking at, and having, a pre-inspection done, having all of your 4-point and win mint ready and, up to date. That's going to help a buyer, take all of that information, get their quotes, avoiding time delays, heartache because all of a sudden, they get to their home inspection and their contingent, their home inspection contingency, and they're like, I saw insurance and it's, whatever it is, and I can't afford that. Well, the last thing that we want is a deal to fall apart. Nobody wants that. The seller doesn't want it. The buyer doesn't want it. We all want to make it work. And really our job as agents is to problem solve. There's always a solution to every problem. 100%.
And I feel like that comes with experience, because you don't know something until you've gone through it.
Right.
Because even, like we hear from each other, oh, this is happening. So now then we can kind of say, okay, this is a new thing to look out for. But if you haven't gone through it, you're a brand new agent, or you're working with a brand new agent, and they just, maybe they're not on a team or has a broker who's paying attention, training them, they're not going to know. You could literally get to that 11th hour and the deal just fall apart.
Yes, we all know. And it happens, and it stinks. And, it's just heartbreaking for everyone involved. It really is. So, it's so important to call, an agent that has been through this. I mean, combined together, how much time do we have? 30 years? 30?
No, that's aging us. We're not that old.
But, walking into a house with a buyer and I'm, already scanning, oh, the wet area doesn't have a GFCI. Well, that's going to be an issue. Or, oh gosh, it's this kind of, electrical box. We know that, they say it causes fire. Exactly. Challenges that, it'll cause a fire. So insurance, your rates are either going to be sky high, or they're going to just tell you, no thanks.
The polybutylene plumbing.
Copper plumbing. Yes.
Have issues, and to know the years, because a lot of people don't know, there's certain years that they were building the home. So if you see that the house was built or remodeled during those years, we better go get under there and look.
Right. No. So, it just goes back down to experience and actually living through the process and doing this hundreds of times, and we really just have to keep up on it, because if insurance says no to this day, next week it might be different, so you just never know. You really never know.
They're looking at their risk. Yeah. I would say too that, I totally lost my train of thought. I was going to say, so we don't want you to be scared though, because sometimes a home inspector, their job is to come in and tell you all the things that are wrong. And that's what we want them to do. But sometimes they can seem really scary, especially if you're not from this area or used to these types of houses. Certain things are different in Florida than they would be in Michigan or Ohio or wherever you're coming from. And so you hear something, you're like, oh, this wood rot, and is the whole house falling down? And you were like, no, that's normal. It's very humid here. That can be fixed by X, Y, and Z. We get a contractor to look at it for you. But sometimes when you read something, especially if you weren't there for the home inspection, which you don't need to be, but if you just received this report, some of those things can look really scary. So even though we say we're going to look out for certain things, the home inspector is going to find things, and it's important to have an agent that again can say, okay, here's what this means, or here's somebody else we can bring in to evaluate what this means, versus oh, this house needs so much, we got to move on.
Right. And a typical home inspection report, with pictures and, descriptions, all that, they can be 80 pages long. That's pretty typical, I would say.
Yeah.
But we always suggest, if it's possible, come to the home inspection. Meet the inspector there so you can walk with him, talk with him or her, in real time. This is a big deal, or this isn't a big deal, and this is, possibly what it would cost, or this is who needs to come look at it. And again, a home inspector knows a lot about, all of the things, but really when you have a seawall problem, as an example, we're not going to depend on the home inspector to tell us what's wrong with that seawall. We're going to call in a seawall guy. He's going to come over here. He's going to take a look at it. He's going to tell us what it costs, what all of the things that we need to know at that point. And then again, you make that decision, whether it's something you want to take on or something, that maybe just doesn't make sense to you at that time.
Yeah. And that's totally the thing, because just because there's something wrong with the house doesn't mean that you probably might not still want it. We could potentially try to renegotiate something, or, you're just like, okay, I'll get to that. I know that's something that's going to be in the future. I mean, we've sold so many homes where they knew that they had repairs once they got in, they were going to have to take care of, but they were okay with that. It was on the report. They were made aware of it. Right. And they're like, yeah, for the price, I'm fine with this.
Exactly.
So, I mean, even some of these, new construction homes, I mean, we bring home inspectors to those and they find things and you would think, okay, new construction, everything should be perfect.
Right.
But they're not.
Sometimes new construction are the biggest offenders, honestly. I mean, you walk in there and you see the blue tape and the punch out and, all of these things, but yet they forgot to do XYZ. I mean, they're all human. I mean, the city's human, the builders are human. I mean, mistakes can be made, but it is super important. I mean, regardless of whether they offer some fantastic, warranty or not. I mean, as you know, with anything in life, I mean, that company might be here today and gone tomorrow. So you want to know what you're dealing with that moment before you sign on that line.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what else are buyers kind of preempting you right now?
I mean, let's talk about, I've been out with buyers all week, so it's pretty fresh, some of the new things that, we're talking about. Let's talk about inventory levels. And,
sure.
We do have a lot of single family home inventory here in Cape Coral. I mean, we came off of, 20 and 21, and it was, the same situation as it was around the country, really. I mean, if you thought about writing an offer, 5 people had already beat you to it.
Sure.
We got in, and then, it almost was like a brick wall down here. Lots of things changed. I mean, we've already gone over the insurance. I mean, everyone, took that time to, fix their homes, make them beautiful again. And, certainly, we have a bit of a trifecta. We've got, high interest rates, high inventory, and,
few natural disasters.
Disasters.
I think that was a big thing. Like we had mentioned early on in last year, like, hey, how's the market going to be? And we're like, if we had no storms, it's probably going to clean up a lot of this extra inventory and whatnot. And then, we had Helene and Milton that affected our area and other areas that are, made people like, oh no, and then of course insurance companies are like, we got to cover ourselves. We're going to raise rates or cancel people. So those were issues that we can't control, but we can help guide you on. As far as the higher inventory, it is a lot, but I find that a lot of it is, you could take off part of it. Part of it's like, they're not even really sellers. Let's just be honest. Like they're listed so high. They're just like, well, if somebody happens to love my house on the, this perfect day. But then the people that really need to sell, I mean, they're getting more realistic. We're definitely finding that, they're not so pie in the sky back in 2021 numbers. They're like, they know what's happening and they know if they want to sell it, they're going to have to be competitively priced.
I mean, absolutely. If you're, maybe looking at, we have an auto search set up for you and you're watching these homes, in this certain price point or, whatever you're looking for. I mean, every day, price reduction, price reduction, price reduction. There's tons of them. But if you, and that's the super important part. If you are a serious seller and you want to sell, you are doing yourself no justice by overpricing that home and hoping that, that right buyer comes along, because your competition, I mean, you have hundreds of homes you're competing with. And the first 2 weeks on that market mean everything.
Absolutely.
Everything. Because now buyers maybe they saved your home because it's a really great home, but you're $100,000 more expensive than everyone else. They're saving your home and now all of a sudden they're watching you drop. And then, who knows, maybe they come in with $100,000 less offer because, you continue to drop. Had you have just priced it straight out of the gate, at that right price, I mean, you might be in a better position, in that situation for sure.
100%. And you can't underprice a home.
No.
Like if we were to, tell you, okay, your home's worth 500 and you're like, okay, well, let's put it at 450. And it would almost be like an auction scenario.
Right.
We would get offers to that price where it was valued at, even in this higher inventory market, just because we have so many eyeballs on Southwest Florida. Like, Sarah, let's say, has, 50 people on a search. I have 50 people on a search. Our other 10,000 agents in the area have 50 people on a search. So that's why it's so important to have your home positioned properly, because it will go out to all those people if it matches their criteria and their price range.
Right.
But if you're $100,000 over, they may never see it because they've had their agent put in their price criteria.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, and if you are a serious seller, I mean, we're in that market where people are going to come and they're going to lowball you. I mean, it just is what it is. And I mean, don't just, say, forget it. I'm not even looking at this. I'm not countering. I'm not doing it. They're 50, 80, whatever they are under your list price. These people, of course, everyone wants a deal. Everyone wants a deal. And I come in at 80,000 less and you counter, whatever. And then all of a sudden we come to some sort of agreement somewhere in that middle. Of course you can't blame someone for trying. I mean, there's lots of houses for sale. And if it's not yours, maybe it's someone else's.
That's so true. And, like if we go back a couple of years when we were working with buyers, it was tough for us to find a home for you.
Sure.
So it was like, you need to come in strong and no, we can't fool around right now because there's probably 5 offers alongside of yours. And we weren't lying, but now we're telling you the market has shifted. We can go in and just see. And, especially if like you're not like fully in love and bought in that house. Okay, we put in the offer, we go back and forth. It's still not what you want. Well, you know what? We have 10 other houses over here we can look at. And it's just, we're going to be honest with you what the market conditions are doing. And, just because we're in this market doesn't mean every seller understands that or is ready to negotiate, but some are. Like I was just pulling comparables on a new listing we're taking, and the comparables for the house with all of the guidelines in were ranging from 400 to 700,000.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like,
I mean, where do you go with that?
The 400 had to be like some kind of like distress. We had to sell. We just took this lowball offer. It didn't really make sense. But when you're looking at that, the pricing gets tricky.
It absolutely does get tricky. And I mean, it's, it goes back to having an agent that knows how to price your property. Just because maybe you're off this area, which is direct Gulf access, and across the street, you've got another one that's not direct access. I mean, that changes the value considerably. So, just because my neighbor across the street who has direct Gulf access sold hers for $1 million, why can't I get $1 million? Well,
my house is better.
Well, exactly. It goes back to everybody thinks their stuff's nicer than everybody else. I get that. We all do. So, it's human nature, but nonetheless, it's just so important. And I mean, we cannot stress this enough. You cannot overprice your home in this market. It does no one any justice.
Absolutely. And going back to too, like if you're a buyer and you're just kind of doing this on your own and you're seeing different things, like those online valuations you're seeing are most likely not accurate. And just like Sarah has said, like the house across the street was $1 million, but the one over here is 500 because you have bridges and it takes an hour to get out for whatever, and it doesn't know that.
Right.
The computer doesn't know that.
And that even going to say that as well is, I mean, oftentimes when you get into an appraisal situation, maybe the appraiser's from Tampa or, who knows where, and they don't understand those either. So sometimes you do have to challenge, those appraisals, and you have to go in. Again, that's why you need agents that know this market, know the market in general, know Cape Coral, and know how to get around these problems.
Absolutely.
Problem solving is real estate 101. I mean, that's why we're here. We've done this. We've seen it. We've been through the short sale market, the foreclosure market, the after Ian market, the before, we've seen it all. We really have. And I mean, not to say that, things don't surprise us, because I mean, certainly I'll call her at 10 o'clock at night and, say, hey, I got into a situation. What do you think about this? And if she doesn't know the answer, we're both going to find it. We're going to figure it out, and we're going to, make it work for as best as we can for all parties involved.
100%. And I wanted to just kind of piggyback on that a little bit. As far as if you're a buyer, like contact us early on in your consideration phase. Like we're not here to be like, well, only contact us if you're ready to buy today. Right. Because most of our customers take 6 months or a year, sometimes even longer. We've talked to people for years before they're ready to make a move, but we've guided them and shared information and values and things that are happening so that they're like super ready to make a decision when that right property comes through or their right circumstances comes through.
Yeah, neither one of us, are in this business to just sell homes. I mean, I don't know how many of your past customers, we have tons of them, but the majority of my past customers and yours too, I still keep in contact with, 100%. When you're showing houses and in this personal, transaction, you share a lot of personal things. We know a lot of things about each other. And, our job is just to get you where you want to be the fastest, the cheapest, the best way we know how. And, we're going to continue that relationship with you, forever. I mean, how many times do you get a phone call 2 years later? Hey, Susan, I remember a long time ago, you told me about an air conditioner guy. Can you give me his number? I mean, all the time. And we're going to do it, with honesty and integrity every single time.
100%. And that's the reason why I just wanted to tell you to start sooner, because sometimes by the time that somebody gets to me, they have a head full of misinformation. And I hate using that word, trust me, but it really is like they've talked themselves out of something, or they've narrowed themselves into something that's not real. Yeah. And so to the point where they maybe are like, well, I guess I'm never going to be able to do that, or this area isn't for me. And it could be. Yeah. And the other thing is too, like if you come here without meeting with us and having us like give you a little, the grand tour of the area, you could miss out. If you're not from here, or you're not familiar with the area, and you just go on the main roads, you might not get the appeal right away, because our main roads are the commercial and the multifamily and messy roads. And so like you might be like, oh, I don't know about this, but we can show you. And honestly, right now, since Ian, there's still some stuff that hasn't been fixed back up. So you go down to the yacht club, for instance, we did a video on that, and everything's been demolished. And sadly, the boathouse was up, and the same day it opened, it burned down. So it looks terrible down there. But in a couple of years, it's going to be gorgeous again and worth it. But if you didn't know that, and you were expecting something different, and you get here, or let that dissuade you completely if you can't see, what's 5 years down the road.
But I mean, to expand on that a little bit, I mean, Cape Coral really, I mean, we work in all of Southwest Florida, but Cape Coral specifically is a really super special place. And I mean, if you're watching this video, you're curious about Cape Coral anyways. I mean, where in the United States can you go and have 400 miles of canals? You walk out your back door, hop in your boat, you're in the river, out to the Gulf of America, and, just having the best time of your life. I mean, Cape Coral is the growth that is happening right now, and that is expected to continue to happen over the next decade, is tremendous. I mean, absolutely tremendous. And, you drive down Cape Coral Parkway and you see these high rises right on the water. I mean, there's going to be shopping and dining, and I mean, all kinds of really special things that, we're super excited to see for sure. The population is increasing. It's not that, roll up the sidewalks at 8 o'clock anymore. I mean, you've been here since when? 2000 or 1994.
That's what I was just going to say. So in 1994, it was a totally different beast. And honestly, I have so many people that come here that are like, I haven't been down there since visiting grandma in the 80s or the 90s, whatever, like they'll say something like that to me. We used to go to Sanibel, she had a condo on the beach, whatever. And they come here and they're like, okay, wow. Yeah. Like it looks so different. The vibe's different. It used to be that like Cape Coral was built just to be like a bedroom community, very just residential. We had hardly any places to go eat or go shop, and you had to go over to the bridge to Fort Myers. And now we have everything. You don't have to leave the Cape anymore.
You don't. And it's so funny because Susan and I joke with each other, and she's like, oh, let's go to XYZ. And I'm like, oh, it's in North Cape. It's so far, I mean, it's just like you get used to your little area. None of us, want to travel the bridge if we don't have to. And now they've made it to where Cape Coral is. I mean, you want to go to, I don't know, Chili's. Well, there's Chili's, or, you get several Targets to choose from. I mean, there's really no need to go over that bridge anymore. And I've been here since 2000. And I mean, the changes that I've witnessed were incredible. I can't even imagine what 1994 looked like.
It was a lot. Like I went to college and came back, and like even like roads that didn't exist before existed. And I'm like, okay.
Right. Because they actually made the midpoint bridge.
They literally picked up houses and moved them and somewhere else. And I came back and I'm like, did there used to be a house? Yeah.
Now there's a bridge.
Picked it up and moved it. Growth, right? Yeah. But it's fun. And like when Sarah said like, we don't want to drive all the way here. Cape Coral's huge. Land-wise, Cape Coral's like what, the third largest city in
the
Florida?
State of Florida, yeah.
So we have a lot of potential here. And it was funny, I was watching a real estate show I think it was on Netflix last night, and they're in New York. and they're selling these high rises. And it blew my mind to think, okay, so you have a building up, and each one of those units were like millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And to think about that and like the potential for growth, like I hope we don't get up.
Yeah.
We don't have that. But just to think about, like, we actually still have land available. So if you even just wanted to invest in land, you can't get that a lot of places.
Mm-mm. No, you can't. And I mean, a regular off-water lot, I mean, there's tons available. I mean, North Cape, that area is still under tremendous, growth and building. And I mean, it's really incredible just to drive through Cape Coral. And I mean, you go to Southwest, you go to Northwest, and it's just the growth and expansion is amazing. And I mean, I welcome it. I certainly do. But, you also wonder, like, how big is too big? I mean, are we, I don't know, but there's something for everybody here. There really is. And, not to bring out personal items, but I do have, friends here from Nebraska. I'm Nebraska native, currently right now. And, it's kind of fun to like ask them every day, like, so what'd you do tonight? Oh, we went and saw the dueling pianos. And I'm like, pianos, like I have kids, I can't go out to dueling pianos, and we went to trivia 2 nights ago, or we walked through 47 Terrace, which is where a lot of the new restaurants and bars and things are located. So it's kind of fun to live through them while they're here. So definitely I'm learning some things that there are to do downtown.
100%. And we just had breakfast the other day with our friend, and she goes out a lot more than we do, and she was mentioning like there's every kind of restaurant available, like whatever type of food she wants. And she's like, and it's better than anywhere else. Like, it's really good. It's not just like, we go back to like the 90s and the early 2000s, and there were like four
restaurants. Yeah.
Right.
No, absolutely. So, I mean, season's fun and lots of people here, and, you do have to plan your day a little bit, accordingly, because the traffic is a little bit more, and, maybe you want to go grocery shopping at, 9 a.m. versus 11 a.m.
Sure.
Or, because we've got a lot of people here. Everybody loves Florida. I mean, maybe not this week. It's like in the 40s right now.
Hence
our little,
We're
puffy jackets.
We're just in our winter clothes.
Yeah, I had to dig out my boots.
Don't hate us at 40s. I know it's like 10 where you are, and snowing and icy and stuff.
Yeah.
But we had snow in northern Florida.
I know. Can you believe that? Panhandle. They have like, last I saw it was like 10 inches or something.
Insane.
10 inches. Insane. People were using their, leaf blowers to get all of the snow off the screen enclosures.
Yeah, because those screens aren't meant to hold that.
No.
I mean, the cage is going to be fine because they're hurricane proof. That's the other thing too. Back to the insurance and stuff.
Yeah,
they build houses up to hurricane codes.
Right.
So if you have a newer house or one that's been updated with the proper roof codes, the hurricane windows and doors, and the structure is going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like sometimes people might lose a fence or their trees or, pool cage or something like that. It sure does. I mean, it's still a mess, but just to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
And even some of these older homes, like the original ones from the 50s and 60s, they're still there.
They're
right?
fine.
And you're just like, okay, well, they're like, well, what about hurricanes? And I'm like, well, let's name all the hurricanes this one's been through.
Yeah.
It's still standing. I mean, Ian was the first one that I knew that flooded.
Well, and the Ian really, I guess, was the only one that, smacked us head on too, that I'm aware of. I don't.
Charlie was super close, but it veered a little north, so it wasn't like here. But yeah, so it maybe didn't even flood ever. That could have been the first one too. So then do we have 10, 20, 50, I don't know. I'm not a weather, forecaster.
Well, you're as good as any weather forecaster. We can be wrong all the time.
That's true. I think that they told us this was already supposed to be done. And people thought it was snowing. Did you see people on Facebook last night locally here?
It's snowing.
It feels like it because it was drizzling last night and it was really, really cold. And of course, once the sun goes down, it's even colder. But yeah, they thought it was snowing. And then of course the weatherman said it's not snowing.
It's not snowing.
It's way too warm.
Super cold.
It felt like it to us Floridians.
It did.
Oh, speaking of, this is another thing to get used to. You will make fun of us when you first come here that we're freezing in this weather, and you say that we're lightweights and that we don't know the things. But trust, the following year, you're going to be calling me, Susan, Sarah, we're cold. We get it. Our blood thinned or whatever happens.
It's true. And it's really funny. Again, my Nebraska friends said, they're like, 40 feels so much colder here than it does in Nebraska. And I'm like, I know. I don't know if it's the humidity or I don't know what, but 40 is cold. It is so cold.
Well,
but
when you're not expecting it, because you post something on Facebook, and then of course all my northern friends are like, "You don't know what cold is. It's this tip," and I'm like, "But we're in South Florida." And the other thing is, we're south of I say it's like the Sarasota area, that line where it doesn't get cold south of that. I mean, this is some kind of weird exception, but it won't last. But north of that can still get cold. Like Tampa, Orlando, the Panhandle, it still gets cold there. So you're in Florida, but it's not really like you're in Florida. Right. And this week, the Keys are still in the 70s. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're just down there chilling. It's not like anything.
I don't even know why 70s still cold. I'm sorry. I'm going to say it. I've been here too long. 70s cold.
It really is. I have had moments where I walk outside and I'm like, oh my God, it's so cold. And I look at my phone for the temperature and it's 70 and I'm like, okay, that's ridiculous, Susan, but it's true. Down. I mean, what else though? About the vibe here, I was just thinking, besides getting used to that, everything's slower here.
It is, and that brings me, how many customers do you have from the other coast, Miami or, Lauderdale or whatever? They buy a vacation home here because they're just trying to get out of all of the hustle and bustle, 3 hours in the car every day, just going 4 miles. Whereas over here, I mean, sure, the traffic's a little crazy in season, but, summer does come and it kind of ghost towns it a little bit, I mean, we're definitely a seasonal area, not as much as we used to be. So don't, come here and expect, all the sidewalks to be empty because that's not the case, I mean, which is really odd. I don't know how long ago it was, but I had read this article that said our median age group right now is in our 40s. Yeah. Whereas, and I didn't say I was in my 40s, but anyways, but it's a lot of young families anymore, along with retirees. So we have this really beautiful mix of just all the generations all together, playing nice in the sandbox together, living their best life.
That made me think of, because we both have kids. We each have 2 boys, and we know about the schools and the sports and the things to do, because a lot of times people come with their families and they're like, okay, what are the good schools? What are the ones that we don't love? Where should we be? We have school choice in the Lee County. It's changed a little bit recently, where it used to be you could go a further distance and now you have to be closer or do your own transportation, which isn't the end of the world, because a lot of people around here drive their kids anyways, but they're not going to bring school buses this far away because they realize that wasn't sustainable. Yeah. But if you have a child, or they're into the arts, or they're into certain sports, or what kind of activity, we can let you know, yes, there's a group for that.
Yeah. Not to interrupt, but do we need our light back on?
I would have to recharge it. Oh, so I kind of was ignoring it, but let me see if I can turn the other one on just to give us a little something.
I screwed up our flow.
I know. I thought of it too, and then I was trying to just be like, I think it's fine. That at least gives us something.
Anyways, back to it. But back to, school choice. I mean, I'm going through it right now. I have an 8th grader going into high school, and, the particular high school that he wants to go to, we're under that 2-mile threshold. So,
proximity.
It's proximity. Exactly. So proximity certainly is something that they try to get you in, but you get 3 choices, on that school choice. So pick your 3 tops and hope you get your one. But
we have 5.
See, I have 3.
Oh, that's super weird, because I'm even further from the schools than you are.
Well, listen, my kids have been in charter school. My son's, being the stepchild out here, wanting to do his own thing. So could be 5, could be 3. I haven't gotten to that aspect of it yet, but whatever.
So So anyways, you have options. Yeah. But again, I think only maybe 2 or 3 out of the 5 were going to give me transportation. Right. But it's still available as an option.
Yeah. So lots of options. You aren't, pigeonholed into a school because you live, 4 blocks away or whatever. You get to choose, or hopefully choose the school that your child gets to go to. You have to put your top picks, and they, eventually put you where they
I will say it's a little bit of a weird thing at first though, because you'll see in your neighborhood multiple buses coming to pick up the children, and you're like, how many schools pick up over here? And
some of them at 9 o'clock in the morning. What? Who goes to school at 9 o'clock in the morning? But some schools do.
So it is weird. And so also to consider that, good or bad, we could be neighbors and our kids go to different schools, and so they could still be friends, of course, but they don't go to the same school, which could seem a little weird. Where I grew up, everybody that lived in my area went to the same school, unless a couple, private or something. But it was odd to me at first, the school choice thing.
No, it definitely is. But, we have lots of great choices here. I mean, most of these schools, you can just kind of set an appointment, walk in, see what they're about. and make the best decision, for your kids.
Oh, so. And at leastschools.net, they rate them all too. So
right.
you can see if they're A, B, C, and, kind of choose from that too. They have
also the advanced programs. And
absolutely.
You'd know more about that than I would. So,
so mean. No, so there's a lot of the for college bound kids or whatever. And then there's the art stuff. So if you're into that, I'm trying sports. So sports here are year round, which is really cool too. Yeah. I mean, cool, but maybe not because it's, a lot for us when we have kids doing it. We don't get breaks, but it's kind of cool because you don't, have to go back between the fall sports and this, you know what I mean? You get most sports year round.
Coming from a football mom here, we have this great Pop Warner organization. There's several teams. My youngest son has been doing Pop Warner since, he was 7, 8 years old, I guess. And so now will be his transition year into high school ball. But there's a fall season, there's a spring season. I mean, I think soccer runs basically 365 here. You've got basketball through the YMCA or through the Parks and Rec department. Swimming is another big sport around here. Lacrosse. I mean, you can pretty well keep your kids busy all year long as long as you are willing to transport them. I mean, we have tons of karate type places.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
the
all
martial
over
arts
the place.
Are huge here.
And they also have these after school programs that they'll come and pick up your kid, on the bus, take him to karate practice. And I know I'm screwing that up. There's so many different kinds. Your son's in that. I don't even know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, my kids do the martial arts. They love jujitsu.
There you go.
And then my oldest is also doing the striking, the MMA kind of style stuff. But
so all the options, after school programs, Parks and Rec is awesome. Jump on their website, just look at all stuff. And I mean, Parks and Rec just isn't for just the kids.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah, because, you can go as a senior, maybe, you want to learn pottery or, there's tons of things that just get you involved. And that also brings me to, my mom, comes down here half and half, and she's into the Cape Coral residents group where, they meet and, do fun things, do activities, break off into their own little group. So it's something, always, for our older community too, to get involved in. So,
and she just said older, but guaranteed her mom doesn't think she's older, and no one here thinks they're older. So when you come here,
older than, I don't know what,
and you literally, people are 80, 90, 100 years old, still out there playing their pickleball.
Oh, pickleball,
and they do not want to be called old, and they don't want to be around old people. So listen, you get to come here and not be old. So if you feel old up north, people don't feel old down here because it's mostly a really great weather. The sun's shining, and we're very active here. Just, what was it, 2 weekends ago, we had the art fest and the boat show, and they literally closed down Cape Coral Parkway all the way from Coronado to Del Prado with just vendors and food and boats. And they had, cool things like golf carts and, four-wheelers and all kind of fun things that you could do. I mean, obviously Cape Coral is very boater friendly, but there's a lot more to do than just that here. And the Parks and Rec, like she said, they have so many, artsy things. They've got yoga, they've got bird watching, they've all these cool things. You just find your group and go do the thing.
And do your thing. I mean, to expand on that, every single weekend almost in Cape Coral, they have something going on during season. I mean, the farmers market is a given. That's every Saturday throughout the year. They have another one on Surfside Shops, which is I think Tuesdays and Sundays. Yep. So that's something that's really awesome. All these local vendors come out with their fresh produce and their, trinkets or honeys or what, whatever they're selling there. But, we've got bike night where all of the, 47th Terrace basically closes down to all of these bikers. Everybody brings their, their bike, their spouses, they go have a good time. They walk the streets, they do the bar scene, all those fun things.
On Tuesday night, that kind of a bike night down at Cape Harbor. It's not just for bikes people because everyone comes there because they usually have a band and you're outside. It's just really cool vibes.
It is. And they had, concert series. And I mean, I guess it's a couple of years ago now, I'm really going to date myself, but Brett Michaels was here, and doing his thing. So we do get,
jazz fest, blues fest, all kinds of cool things.
They really do. And again, you don't have to go drive over that bridge into Fort Myers, because they do a lot of stuff at Centennial. So I'm not at all dismissing that. They have a great time over there too. But I mean, for us people that don't, maybe we don't want to cross the bridge, and we've got plenty of stuff to do here. We really do.
Speaking of over the bridge or whatever, I just want to say, like, within an hour from here, like, you're in Naples, Marco, you're in Sarasota. So, like, even if you don't find exactly what you want here, an hour drive isn't that long.
No.
And you could find so many more things. And then if you consider like a 2-hour drive, you could be in Tampa, you could be over to Miami, Fort Lauderdale. Like, you are really in a spot where if you want to take a day trip or a weekend trip, like, there's so many opportunities.
That is so true, because I mean, I don't know how many times you've been to Disney with your family, but I mean, I can't even count how many times my kids are like, oh my God, not Disney again. But I mean, it's a 3-hour drive. Nobody wants to do it in one day, but you could.
Yeah,
Tampa's 2 hours away. You can do Busch Gardens. I mean, that's what's really great about Cape Coral, is that you don't have to have all of the big city hubbub. You're in this gorgeous little community. But if you want to drive and get in the hubbub, it's not too far away. So, great
and I
spot.
love that, because, I'm not a big city vibey person at all. But once in a while, it's kind of fun to like go get dressed up and go have a night out in Miami, South Beach or something. And like, we don't really have that vibe here. Like, it's a very casual vibe. Like, you can pretty much go into almost any restaurant, anything, dressed in your boat clothes. Yeah. Really. Like, because there's so many boaters and whatnot, like, you can show up in your shorts and your flip flops and you're not going to be denied service. Yeah. Sometimes people don't love that because they prefer to have like, these higher standards. So there's a handful of places you can go with that. But for the most part, it's a very casual area. Yeah, it really is. So, I mean, pretty much anything goes here. You're not going to get side-eyed if you walk into, Publix with your swimsuit cover up and some flip-flops. I mean, you'll probably see half the people in there the same way. So, exactly. And that being said, I mean, let's talk about, the beach as an example, because the Fort Myers Beach obviously is going through this like transformative period where, a lot of that stuff is that you remember seeing back in the whenevers is not there anymore. It just isn't. It doesn't exist. Right. And, something is coming, to replace that, something big and beautiful in a McMansion or, who knows what's coming in. And we're going to have a trickle down effect from that. For sure. But like, we did a video on Fort Myers Beach and it's out there, and like Margaritaville, for one, that's done. Like, it was almost done when Ian came. So it kind of shows you what's going to happen there. Yeah. And we see like every few weeks on the news, like a new purchase of like a big parcel or an old building, and they're going to build like whatever 100 high rises or whatever. Yeah. So, I mean, that being said, it's like, all right, what does Cape Coral local real estate look like, 5 years from now? But it's really interesting to me. When we were doing our beach video, we had met this woman and we were standing in the line, talking to the chamber or whatever. And, she had said, I think she was in North Carolina or South Carolina, anyways, a very hurricane prone area. She had said that I believe she lost her house 2 or 3 times and rebuilt every time. And she said it takes 5 years for people to forget, and it takes 10 years for them to come back. And I thought that was really, really interesting, because certainly, coming off a storm like that in Fort Myers Beach, when you go down there after, all these years of maybe coming and, it's like, holy Moses, like, what is this? I mean, it's beautiful, and you can see, I can see the vision and I can see, where they're going, but it's definitely not going to be, 1965 little bungalows and, your family passed it down, generation upon generation. It's all going to be big, beautiful mansions and concrete high rises and, all kinds of new things. But certainly with that brings jobs. Sure. And in the hospitality industry for sure. And, the real of it is that a lot of the people that are in the hospitality, maybe they can't afford to live on Fort Myers Beach. So where are they going to go? They're going to go to Cape Coral. They're going to go to Fort Myers. They're going to go to Estero. They're going to, so the beach is a good thing. It's going to bring a lot of, new people, new faces, new, businesses to the area. And I think we're all going to appreciate it very soon. So, 100%. The vibe's changing, but it's going to be beautiful. And I will say that we are like, depending on traffic, of course, like 45 minutes to an hour from like several great beaches. Sure. Sanibel, Captiva. Don't forget Englewood. That's a gorgeous beach. Right. That's an hour. Yeah. And Fort Myers Beach, Bonita Beach. Like, we have so many beaches to go to. People ask a lot though, does Cape Coral have a beach? And it technically does. And it's on the river. Yeah. I don't consider that when I think of beach. Like when I think of beach, I think of waves and, you know, you don't, you know, it's different, but technically it is a beach. And there's also in North Cape one that the Charlotte, whatever trail you can go out and there's a beach there. And that's probably going to get developed up there. So there may end up being a beach out there.
The new project that they're doing on the Four Freedoms Park out there, that's one of the things that they're going to create is, you know, a really cool beach area with, you know, the cool beach bar vibe. And, you know, we mentioned the boathouse before. I mean, they're certainly rebuilding, and that was a cool, you know, vibe out there. You sit on the big deck and watch the water and the boats, and there's a beach right there. And, you know, it's definitely not your normal beach, you know, your Fort Myers beach, river, but it's still the river. So, you know.
Yeah, the northwest part will be like a real beach. That'll be like the bay's huge there. So it'll actually be one. But yeah, I mean, there's so many new things coming too. I mean, I know you're really excited about the food trucks.
Yes, I can't wait. So there's this really cool food truck pavilion that's going to be on the foot of the Cape Coral Bridge. And so what they're trying to do here is, I can't remember exactly how many, 12, 15 food trucks at a time, but each one, I mean, they'll switch them out. So, you know, maybe this week will be, you know, I don't know, tacos or whatever, but maybe next week will be something else. Right. You know, those fantastic, there's this egg roll truck in Cape Coral, and all they do is sell these funky egg rolls. Best thing I've ever had in my life. So
some of those food trucks are amazing. I forget what I got recently, and I was just like, wow. You know what it was? It was cheese curds at one of the events. And I'm like, okay, I know it's really naughty and fried food and stuff, but it was like so delicious. It was, I mean, we couldn't finish it. It was only like this big, but they were so rich and just so good. But yeah, so we have stuff like that coming where if you were here 20 years ago, you're like, food truck, what?
Right. And then in addition to that little food truck area, they're going to have like a marina with some boat slips and little pavilions to sit under, and then some walking path. And as a matter of fact, I was in a nail appointment a few weeks back, and I happened to be sitting next to a gal from the zoning and planning here in Cape Coral. And she was talking about how, you know, one of their goals is to make Cape Coral a walkable community, you know, where you can start at Cape Coral Parkway and you can walk all the way down, you know, to Pine Island, you know, on sidewalks. And maybe, you know, they're changing maybe the vibe of Del Prado to where now we're maybe can have some more restaurants and maybe a bar. So as you're walking, maybe you want to, you know, get a drink or, you know, whatever. But I mean, how fun is that? You know, because Cape Coral really, I mean, when they started this community, I mean, they had no idea what it was going to turn into. I mean, you know, maybe our roads didn't keep up or, you know, whatever, but they're trying to fix that. They're looking at that. They're, you know, working on that. So I think, you know, the growth is great, and I'm super excited. I can't wait to see, you know, all these really great things like JC Park is an example. You know, they're working on that. And of course, you know, people have mixed opinions on that, but, you know, they've got an amphitheater coming. You could just walk outside and listen to live music in the middle of the day. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah, you know? There's a lot of cool things coming. And, it's like you said, like it's all just going to flow over, you know, as more people find out about it. I mean, even like 10 years ago, I would talk to people and they hadn't heard of Cape Coral. You know, there's sure a lot of people had, but a lot of people hadn't. And then we would say, oh, we're across from Fort Myers. And they're like, oh, I know Fort Myers. I never went over to the Cape or, you know, Cape Coral. And so, you know, people are going to start noticing as we grow for sure.
Yeah, I really think so. And, you know, being here, raising my kids here, you know, it was a good choice for me. It really was. And I know that you love it here too. I don't have any intention or plans on going anywhere else you know, right now anyways.
No, I mean, it's awesome. And I think that, you know, we've kind of covered, there's something for everyone here at all different ages and all different interest groups and all different price points, because we have homes. I mean, there's homes now back in the $200,000 price range.
Have not seen that for what, 4 years?
And then, and now we have beautiful like mansions, $5, $6, $7 million that like rival the big, you know, Naples, Miami, like they're beautiful. So, I mean, whatever your price point might be, and like those homes that are 5 million here would be 15, 20 million in Naples. So you get a really nice savings there.
And you're right on the water. So, you know, that there's something to be said about that. And, you know, certainly the new homes that are being built, on the water, they've got new codes to abide by. So,
100%.
Certainly they're elevating them a bit and, keep trying to keep them, watertight and water safe. So, I guess the moral of the story is whatever you're hearing on the news, I mean, call us, talk to us. Let's have a conversation about it. We're not in the business to, not be honest with you. It's just not, it does no one any good. So
100%. And then we'll take you around to see these things. Like it was just last month at Christmas, driving around looking at Christmas lights. And then I just started seeing like homes that I hadn't even seen. And like, I'm in the business and I see lots of homes and stuff, but I'm like, holy moly, this 3-story gorgeous home right on the Caloosahatchee River, and I mean, huge, like 10,000 square feet. I don't know. It's beautiful. And I'm just like, okay, it's just a total different cool vibe that's coming.
Well, back to the part about, affordability, you can get on Gulf Access Canal, I mean, in the high 4s again, low 5s. I mean, that's kind of, entry level, right? Entry level, but still it is on the water. I mean, if you're ready to come down here with your tool bag and, do some fixes and updates and things like that, I mean, you can get on the water and have, a great place for, around $500,000.
Yeah, we haven't been able to say that for a while.
And a pool home. I mean, I'm seeing pool homes in the high 2s again. A 3-2 pool home, high 2s, low 3s. I mean, it's happening. So, and again, like we covered before, I mean, don't be afraid to come in here and throw out some crazy offer. You never know what someone's situation is. And, it's definitely worth a shot for sure. So.
Yeah. Well, I think we covered a lot today. And, if you think of anything that you would like to hear us talk about, because we have been around for a while, or someone...
Stop saying that. We've been around for a while.
She hasn't. She's like 30 years younger than me. Or if there's like, an industry professional you want us to bring in, like a home inspector or a mortgage person or, a title company or something, so you can get some of those questions answered. And again, like get on the phone with us. We can refer you to all these people. You can start having these conversations. Our lenders will talk to you before you're ready, so you can see like what things look like. Even if like there's something you need to change with your credit or your income, like they can help you. Okay, well, when you get to this, you could buy, or if you pay this off, you could buy. Like they'll work with you to find the best loan program.
And that goes back to, we surround ourselves with people that are like-minded. All of our vendors and stuff. Certainly, I seek out people that I know have tons of honesty, integrity, because I'm certainly not going to refer them to somebody if they don't have the same, values that, that we hold. So
100%,
but that being said, I mean, we got a guy for everybody, everything, all the things, so
and call us. And even if, you met with us 2 years ago, didn't buy anything, call us. Like, if you need some help with something, I've had people that, for some reason didn't buy with me.
No, that's weird.
Right. 3-4 years later, they're like, Susan, you were the only one that kept in touch. Send me the newsletter. You update me. Will you sell my house? Or I have questions on to buy another house, whatever, because we're going to be here for the long haul.
That's it. And honestly, it does matter who you work with. Maybe we don't vibe. I mean, you're going to vibe with one of us for sure. So, call us. Like, let's have a conversation. And even if you're not in the market to buy or sell at this very moment, and you have a question about anything we covered or something we didn't cover, call us. We're always here 100%. For you. Email us, whatever you got to do. So
we'll put our contact information in the video, of course, and a couple of the links to some other videos that we kind of talked that we've done previously. If you want to go take a look at those to see what the areas look like. And anything that we can do for you, we're here. Again, we're Florida Future Realty, opened very end of 07, early 08. So been in this area for a long time.
Been licensed for a long time, very long time. So, if we don't know the answer, we're going to find that answer for you every time, all the time. I mean, we're all about consistency here. So, what you see is what you get too. So
100%. Well, I'm Susan Milner.
Sarah Rothenberg.
All right. We'll see you later.
Stay warm out there.